everybody. Welcome back to Sports Talk with Austin or Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports. And tonight on the show, me and Jeffrey will be breaking down the 2024 NBA playoffs, and we will giving you our predictions on who we think will win all these great series and much, much more. Jeffrey, the time has arrived. We're finally here at the 2024 NBA playoffs. How you feeling, man?
I'm looking forward to it. Nothing's like March Madness, though. I'm just disclaimer. Nothing is like March Madness. That's the ultimate tournament. But when you get to this time of year and all that you have on is Major League Baseball and you've got the Spring Football League, the UFL, nothing against those leagues. I mean, they're good at baseball. I mean, I'm watching it a little bit more lately, but still just not a connoisseur in that department. But the NBA playoffs, I enjoy it every year, and it has its own charm. The 7-game series kind of thing, I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing. It's been going on since the NBA playoffs basically been started. They've always done it like this, but it doesn't have the feel of March Madness where it's one game, right, and you lose and you're out. Like, you have to give it everything you've got. Whereas here, if you lose a game, you can just make it right back up the next game. So that's kind of a little bit of a bummer, but it's still kind of fun because it does last a while into the early parts of the summer, like late spring. I guess it probably ends around when summer starts, but still the NBA playoffs is still fun, but it just doesn't have that March Madness feel. But at least the play-in tournament, that kind of gives you that little taste of it feeling like a little bit March Madness, where if you lose, you could be done. So it's still fun.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to breaking it down.
I am too, and I agree, Jeffrey. The old cliche is there's no tomorrow. In a single elimination tournament, the old cliche is there's no tomorrow. Well, in the NBA playoffs, there is a tomorrow. If you lose game one, there's always the next day. But in the play-in, though, there is no tomorrow. You lose this, your year's over. Especially the 9-10 game. The 7-8, we'll get to it. Winners in, loser might be playing for their season. But Jeffrey, take it away and introduce us to our first game we'll be breaking down.
Absolutely. I mean, you never want to be the 7 seed and then lose the 2 games in the play-in tournament, because then fans are going to be absolutely furious. You just can't do that. You can lose the first game, but you got to make sure you at least win the second game and get that 8 seed. But in our first game, we got the New Orleans Pelicans and the Los Angeles Lakers. For LeBron fans, I mean, mediocrity is basically where LeBron's career has set in when it comes to his teams. He's still really good. I mean, he's putting up great stats. No one can deny that. Anthony Davis, when he's healthy, always is playing well. But the Lakers, if you look at what they've been doing year over year, the last few years with LeBron James, I mean, they're always in this play-in tournament, it seems, every single year. But the Pelicans, we know that they've had problems with Zion Williamson. He hasn't been able to stay on the floor, but this season he was able to stay on the floor. He played a lot more this year. He played pretty well. He's still trying to get better in certain areas, but he improved. Brandon Ingram played well, but this is going to be a very interesting matchup. And the game is at the Pelicans because they have the higher seed. They're the 7th seed. The Lakers are the 8th seed. But the winner of this game, they're in the NBA playoffs. They're good to go. But the loser of this game, they still have to win at least one of the games in the play-in tournament to get in. But what you feeling about this matchup?
So this is one of those games that you look at on paper and it's got all the star power. You've got LeBron, you've got AD, you've got Zion, you've got C. McCollum, Brandon Ingram. Pelicans, they're a very young roster. Herb Jones, Trey Murphy. They've got a young core to go around their superstars. But Jeffrey, what's concerning is the Pelicans were as high as the 3 seed this past year, and now they're the 7th seed and in the play-in. That's a little concerning. Now, Brandon Ingram has been dinged up over the past couple of weeks. He is expected, I believe, to play in this game. Zion, as you said, has stayed mostly healthy, and he's gotten a better routine. And Jeffrey, we watched him a lot at Duke. He was a monster. But his key was, could he stay healthy and stay in shape? Because, that was his biggest downfall. And I feel like if Zion could stay healthy, the sky's the limit for him. I feel like he could take the Pelicans as far as they want to go. They can even win the West this year if they could put it all together. But the thing that's interesting about this matchup, Jeffrey, is they met in the regular season finale on Sunday, and the Lakers won in New Orleans. And maybe the momentum is riding in LA, and LeBron is the most experienced player in this matchup. This is going to be a fun game. I can't wait for this game. But something tells me, Jeffrey, that you don't bet against LeBron in win or go home situations. You just don't do it. And for that, I'm going to take the Lakers to win 119-110 over the Pelicans and advance to the playoffs.
Man, that's got to be tough for Pelicans fans, which if they lose, it's not all over. But, I mean, the thing is, it's so tough is because whenever you say you can't bet against LeBron, then people think you're a LeBron fan. I got nothing against LeBron. I'm not saying anything about LeBron. On the floor, he's fantastic. Off the floor, that's a whole other thing. But you can't really do it, can you? I mean, he's been in the league forever. I mean, he's been in the NBA longer than I've been alive. I mean, you were alive when LeBron entered the league, but I was not. So that's how long he's been in the NBA, since 2003. And he's just lit up the league ever since. I mean, he's the all-time leading scorer. And obviously, it's not just LeBron. I mean, the other players matter as well. LeBron can't single-handedly do it, but I do think the experience of the Lakers versus, more of the youth of the Pelicans is something to watch. Because, I mean, we saw last year the Thunder, they were very young, but they won their first play-in tournament game. So, I mean, it's like maybe the youth here can be able to get the Pelicans by. And they're a good team. I mean, they're not, for whatever reason, like you said, just wasn't as good this year. They had some injuries, like you said, with Brandon Ingram. But the Pelicans are very, very good. But the Lakers did beat them on their own floor. I don't know. I just think that you can't really bet against LeBron James to lose this early in the playoffs. They're not going to go far. I don't think. I'm not saying any predictions or anything past this yet, but I don't think they're not going to make it all the way to the second to last round or the the championship game. They're not going to get all the way that far, I don't think. But I am going to go with the Lakers to knock off the Pelicans. Probably somewhere in the neighborhood, like you said. I'll go 117 to 112. I think it's going to be close, but the Lakers are going to pull it out.
Yeah. And another big key, Jeffrey, is Anthony Davis has got to pitch in as well. Because when AD pitches in, the Lakers are a dangerous team. But if he doesn't pitch in, this could be trouble brewing in LA. But we've seen LeBron do it before. But this next game is going to be really interesting. The 9-10 matchup out west. Golden State going to Sacramento, a rematch of the 2023 playoffs. Now, the winner of this game will play the loser of the 7-8, which we are predicting it to be the Pelicans. Jeffrey, are the Kings going to get the Warriors back after last year? Or is Golden State and Steph Curry, is the experience going to get them again?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And like Jackson said as well, it's funny that Anthony Davis is going to be going against his old team again. That's a really great point. And plus, like Jackson also said, on First Take, everybody was talking about the Lakers and the Warriors. That's not surprising, though. Of course they're going to be talking about the Lakers and the Warriors. That's what everybody cares about, right? Wrong. People do care about the Pelicans and the Kings. I absolutely agree with you, Jackson. But that's just what they're going to talk about. Obviously, they're going to talk about more of the Lakers and the Warriors. But the Kings, though, it's ironic to me that they're in this situation. Being in the 9-10 game, I would have thought they would have had a much higher seed this season, maybe a 5 or a 6 seed or maybe even a 4 seed. But they struggled this season overall, but they still have a lot of talent. De'Aaron Fox, he's clutch as they come. That guy at the end, of a game, it's unbelievable how he's able to score. Malik Monk as well. With the Warriors, though, even though they're aging and they're nowhere near what they used to be, Klay Thompson can still get hot from 3, and we know what Curry can do. Curry is unbelievable. It doesn't even look like, he's aged at all. On the floor, he doesn't look like he's 35, whatever age he is. He's getting up there. He just doesn't look like it at all. He's still balling out. And then I know he's not the difference maker, but Trayce Jackson-Davis, ever since he's been inserted to the starting lineup, the Warriors are better. They wouldn't even be here right now, in my opinion, if they didn't start playing Jackson-Davis more. Maybe that's a bold take, but they started winning a lot more games when he was inserted in the lineup. And Draymond Green, his suspension, that hurt the Warriors too because he missed all his games. Maybe if he hadn't have got suspended all those games, they would have won more games and maybe they'd have been like a 7 or an 8 seed. But still at the end of the day, though, the Warriors just aren't that great of a team because their defense lets them down. Their offense is good, but that defense, it's ugly. Because there was like one game, I think it was the game they played against LeBron. And they played against LeBron, and it was like a 148, 146 type of game that went to like double overtime. I remember watching it or whatever. And they lost the game, the Warriors did, and Curry had like 50. So that's inexplicable. You can't do that. There's no way that you should be scoring that many points, your star player scoring that many points, and you lose. It's kind of like that time when Jason Tatum and the Celtics were in the playoffs, and he had like 55 points, and they didn't win against the Bucks. And it's like that was different, though, because they had some injuries. But the Warriors, they're basically healthy. Like, they have no excuses, but for whatever reason, their defense is poor. The Kings, they're at home. But, I mean, can you bet against Curry?
Yeah, it goes back to the LeBron thing. Can you bet against the guy who's been here before? But, Jeffrey, I think there's an element to this game that a lot of people are not mentioning. This was a playoff matchup from a year ago. And I think it still sticks in Sacramento's mind that they took the defending champs at the time all the way to a 7-game series and were just that close to getting
that series.
Yeah, that was one of the best series of the entire playoffs, in my opinion. And it showed how quick the Kings came along. But like you said, can you bet against Curry and Thompson, bet against the Splash Brothers? And let's not forget, Chris Paul's a part of this Golden State team as well. But there's also the narrative out there that he doesn't perform when it's time for the playoffs. This is a really tough game to pick. But, Jeffrey, I'll let you pick this one first since I picked the last one first. I'll put you on the hot seat first.
All right. Well, I mean, I will say I do already have my pick, but I just like seeing you pick first to see if my pick is going to be the same. But all right, I'll do it first. I mean, you are right about that. I really did enjoy that series last year because I did some of the live streams for those playoff games, and man, that series was absolutely fun. I mean, that 7th game, I mean, just the crowd was going crazy with the Kings and the Warriors both ways. I mean, I felt bad for the Kings, though. I really did. Like, I didn't have a dog in the fight. I didn't care who won, really, but I was kind of pulling for the Kings because just how hard they were playing. And like Jackson said, if the Kings win, all we're going to hear is what the Warriors went through and not about what a terrific job Mike Brown is doing with the Kings. You know it's going to be that way. It's the Warriors. But I'm sorry, Sacramento. Curry, Clay, and Trayce Jackson-Davis, Chris Paul, they're going to find a way to win on the road. I am anyway. I don't know if you are, but I'm going with both of the road teams to get it done, the experienced teams. I think the Warriors are going to beat the Kings 124-120.
Jeffrey, I'm going Sacramento. I'm going Kings. I think the Kings, they're poised and they want to avenge the loss that they suffered last year to Golden State. I got the Kings winning 113-105. I think the Kings, De'Aaron Fox has a big night. I got the Kings winning. And they will advance to play New Orleans for the right to play as the 8th seed, to play for the 8th seed.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely could be right on that. I mean, maybe Jackson Davis, maybe that's blinding me a little bit. I don't know, but I still think the Warriors are dangerous. I mean, they're a really good 10 seed. They got flaws, they got problems, but still, I think they're going to get it done. The Deep Zones, he says hit the like button. Hey, Only Talk Sports, appreciate that. Steven Cherry says the Kings will win. Crowd will be hyped. I mean, the crowd is going to play a factor. It's going to play a big role, but we know the Warriors can win on the road. Big time Jay says stop it. He's going Warriors money line. So we got a little bit of debate in chat right now about this game. I mean, I definitely understand why. It's going to be close. I think the spread is low. Golden State's actually favored. That's surprising. I wouldn't have thought that New Orleans is favored by 1.5, and we both went with the Lakers, but Golden State's actually favored by 2.5, so that's crazy.
Now the question is, though, Jeffrey, who's going to represent the 8th seed out west, and who gets the right to play the Thunder? It's going to be the Pelicans at home against the Kings in my scenario, and the Pelicans at home against the Warriors. I'll say this right now, Jeffrey. I think Sacramento, New Orleans could be a really fun second playing game. I think it'll be close, but I'm going Kings over the Pelicans. I think the Pelicans are going to miss the postseason. I believe in De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk. I believe in those guys. I think the Kings, I think they're on a mission to prove. And let's not forget Sabonis, the double-double master. Let's not forget the Kings are young, talented, they're poised, they're playing with hunger. Give me the Kings over the Pelicans in my second playing game. But Jeffrey, is the Warriors gonna knock out the Pelicans in yours, or what's going on? Who gets to go play the Thunder in your version?
Well, I'm just going to say that I don't really think we like the Pelicans all that much because I'm going with the Warriors. I'm going with the Warriors to make it to the playoffs, be the 8th seed, and the 7th seed Pelicans miss the playoffs in both of our predictions. Unbelievable. I mean, if the Pelicans make the playoffs, Pelicans fans, they're going to let us know.
Here's the thing, Pelicans fans right about now are angry typing. How dare you? Oh, man.
I can't believe we both actually picked the Pelicans not to make it. I mean, they're a good team, but this is a tough playing field. The Lakers, the Pelicans, the Kings, and the Warriors all are good teams. It's crazy.
Someone's got to miss it.
I agree. And the thing is, I mean, like people have said, the play-in tournament, I know a lot of people say it's just an easy cash grab, but the Kings and the Warriors would have missed the playoffs without this play-in tournament. And both of the teams are really good. And it's making for great matchups. So I can't really complain. Even if it is just a money grab, it's hard to complain with these matchups. This is going to be fun.
So in your bracket, Jeffrey, and this will come in handy for everyone out there who may or may not know, but when we get to our brackets and predict the 1-8 game, Jeffrey will be predicting a different 8 seed than me. Just keep that in mind. Jeffrey, you will be predicting the Thunder Warriors series. I will be predicting the Kings Thunder series.
For sure. Definitely have to keep that in mind. It's kind of tough, a little tricky, but we'll definitely be able to remember.
And obviously, we both have the Lakers going to play the Nuggets out west. So we'll both be able to pick for that one. Now, on to the west side of the brackets. And Jeffrey, let's start with our 1 versus 8. So who do you break it down, Jeffrey? Warriors, Thunder. Who do you like, and how many games do you think it'll take for your winner?
Yeah, I mean, with the Thunder being such a young team, it kind of plays into the same role as like you mentioned with the Kings, where I picked the Warriors to get past them. I just feel like with the Warriors' experience, it's going to help them in the playoffs, even though their defense is an issue. I mean, that's been a massive problem all season long. But the difference between the Kings and the Thunder is that the Thunder just aren't losing. I mean, I followed the NBA. I'm not going to say hard this season, but I followed it a decent amount. And I still was surprised when I saw at the end of the season that the Thunder were the 1 seed. I was legitimately blown away. Like the Celtics being the 1 seed in the East, I'm like, well, it's the Celtics. You know, they got tons of talent. Maybe this is their year. Who knows? But like, it doesn't surprise me that they're a 1 seed. But then over in the West, you got all these teams, right? The Lakers and the Warriors everybody's talking about. You've got the Clippers. You got the Nuggets. You got all these teams, the Phoenix Suns. And then out of all of that, the Thunder are the 1 seed. So, I mean, they're legit. Chet Holmgren, obviously being able to play in his rookie year after missing his first season that he was supposed to be in the NBA with the injury that he had. He had a fantastic rookie year. Along Victor Wembanyama had a great season, probably outshined him a little bit. But for like rookie of the year, I don't know if they already did the awards for that. But I know Chet Holmgren had a fantastic season. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, people are finally giving him the recognition he's been deserving for years, because he always put up a lot of points with the Thunder, even though they always were losing. But now that they're winning and he's still putting up a lot of points, his stock has gone up tremendously. I mean, he's one of the best guards in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's no debate. He's unbelievable. And then they got a plethora of other players. It's not just Holmgren and SGA. They got a lot of talent, young talent.
Lou Dort out of Arizona State. Yes, Lou Dort. He was a gem coming out of Arizona State. A lot of people were like, he's a great defensive player, but can he shoot? And he's transformed his game over into the NBA. And he's going to make himself a lot of money in the market. I think he already got a contract extension. I mean, and Josh Giddey. I mean, the Thunder are a really young and talented team.
Yeah, and to think that basically all it took was like Chet Holmgren coming back to put it all together, because people were saying last year, like, well, the Thunder, they have all this young talent, but like they were in the play-in game and they didn't really do anything after that. But like they get Chet Holmgren back and then the other guys get better, and then now they're only the 1 seed. So, I mean, it's insane the improvement that they made. And it just goes to show you that drafting is so important. If you draft the right players, then you can build that way. You can build your team through the draft. It doesn't always have to be trades. Yes,
Jeffrey, preach it. Preach it. Let them know that the draft is not forgotten. Because, Jeffrey, we're in a day and age now where they'll spend all this big money on these big players because they want it now. Sometimes it's best to go through the draft and hone the talent and bring them all together. And look, it paid dividends for the Thunder. The Celtics, when they made that trade with the Nets, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, they're a virtue of that trade, and they came out of the draft, obviously. So it just goes to show when you get draft picks, you can turn it into talent. And the Thunder are now the 1 seed. Who would have thought that?
I mean, absolutely not. I would not have expected it at all. And I mean, they're such a good team that it almost worries me, though, that they're playing so well that maybe, doubt can creep in a little bit. Like they're the top of the world of the 1 seed, and then the good old Warriors trip them up. But I can't do it. I just can't pick the Warriors to beat the Thunder. They're that good. I haven't seen them that many times this year, but when I have seen them, I mean, they're just unreal. I think they're going to keep it going. They're hungry. They're determined to show the NBA world that they're for real. I'm going to go with the Thunder to knock off the Warriors in 6 games. I think it's going to take 6 games to do it, but they're going to get it done.
And in my matchup, I've got the Thunder battling the Kings in the 1-8 game. And both of these are going to be for viewing pleasures, whether Jeffrey's right or I'm right, or maybe neither one of us are right, and it's the Pelicans. But this is going to be for our viewing pleasure. I think this is going to be a spectacular series either way. But for my series, I think the Kings Thunder, I think this series could go the distance because you got 2 young, hungry, talented teams. And it's going to come down to the depth and the point guard play in my series. De'Aaron Fox, I think he's a bit of a better point guard than SGA as of right now. And I think the Kings have the ability to shoot you off the court. I think this is going to be a fun series. And I also think Chet Holmgren, Sabonis down on the low block, that's going to be fun. Can Josh Giddey hit enough shots, make the Kings guard Giddey, and help free up the other guys? But, Jeffrey, I think this is a series that's going to go the distance. I'm going to take the Thunder over the Kings in 7.
Ooh. So you're kind of thinking what I was thinking, that it's going to be a struggle for the Thunder. It's not going to be that they're going to sweep or do it in 5 games. I mean, it could go all the way, especially if it is the Kings. I mean, they're similar teams, kind of ironically, despite the fact that the Thunder are the 1 seed and the Kings are all the way down to the 9 seed, but they would be the 8 seed if they win in your scenario. But yeah, I mean, they are similar teams. But I mean, Josh Giddey, though, like him being alongside SGA makes that backcourt so dangerous. A lot of people don't give him enough credit either. Because, like, if it was SGA, I think they would struggle a lot more. But, like, if he's kind of being a little bit turnover prone, or sometimes, like, if he's a little off, then you have Josh Giddey to just tame it back down, tone it down. It's all good. But then if you got SGA rolling, Giddey can kind of take a back seat. But they're just both really dynamic in that backcourt.
Yeah, and the thing that hurts Giddey is he's got to get a better shooting percentage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could really help make it lethal. But we both had the Thunder advancing in round one. Now, on to the 4-5 matchup. You've got the 4th-seeded Los Angeles Clippers battling the 5th-seeded Dallas Mavericks. And this is the NBA's version of the 8-9 game.
Mm-hmm.
Like in March Madness, you have the 8-9 game where it could kind of flip-flop what you're feeling that day. This is the NBA's version of that. Jeffrey, what's your initial thoughts of this matchup, and who do you think you might be leaning towards?
Well, I mean, for one thing, I'm kind of shocked that the Mavericks are the 5 seed because, I mean, they've always been kind of like hovering around mediocrity, being in the playing rounds and stuff, but had a good year. I mean, Kyrie Irving, fantastic numbers all season long. And we know Luka Doncic is unbelievable. But their other players stepped up at times when they needed it to. I mean, again, it's too much of Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, but the other players helped somewhat. Then when you look at the Clippers, it's always been about health with them because we know Paul George is good. We know Kawhi Leonard, what he can do when he's healthy, but they haven't been healthy. Those guys have been injured a lot in the past few seasons. And usually when it gets to playoff time, that's when they're not able to play, which is just terrible because of the fact that I think last year, in my opinion, I believe that the Clippers would have knocked off the Suns in that playoff series last year if they were healthy. I mean, because they were competitive with them, even though they were not healthy. They were very competitive. The Suns got lucky that the Clippers were not healthy. But I think with them being healthy, because it looks like Kawhi Leonard's going to play, the other players are good to go. They brought in James Harden. He should be able to go. That's kind of elevated the offense. I don't know. I think that the Mavericks are good, but I feel like the Clippers have more talent. They've got more good players, and that's going to help them get by the Mavericks in 7 games. I'm going to have it going to the distance. I think it's going to go all the way to 7 games because I feel like Irving and Doncic are going to have a couple games where they just ball out, which is going to automatically give them 2 wins. Maybe they'll find a way to win a 3rd one, but the Clippers, they're going to win 4 of those games, get all the way to game 7, and knock off the Mavericks. I think the Clippers will move on.
Yeah, that's an excellent pick, Jeffrey. And, the Clippers, with all their talent, they really should not be a 4 seed. They should be borderline 2 in the 2-1 range. But like you said, the injuries have been it's ridded them, so to speak, if I can say that word. It's been a problem for the Clippers. But, Jeffrey, we all know when Kawhi Leonard's healthy, he's arguably one of the best players in the world today. Paul George, they brought him in to be his running mate. You remember Indiana Pacer Paul George taking LeBron to 7 games. LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh taking that team to 7. And then with the Thunder, Paul George is a spectacular player as well. My question is, Jeffrey, how much is James Harden going to affect this series? Is James Harden going to prove that he's not a liability and that he is as good as he – can he be like MVP James Harden? Can he be enough of a factor where it doesn't cost him the series? But like you said, though, Jeffrey, Luka and Kyrie have been balling, and Kyrie has seemed to finally found a groove and a home in Dallas. After a lot of critics criticized him, saying that he's not the right fit in Dallas, he's ruining the team, and that Luka's never going to win a title there. And here they are with a golden chance. And, Jeffrey, this has kind of been a budding rivalry. They played in the bubble. The Clippers won in 7. They played in 2021, I believe. And I think it went the distance as well. But the key thing for the Mavericks that I want to see for them is can their bench can they help out just enough to get a couple more W's? That's the biggest thing I worry with. Jeffrey, you picked the Clippers in 7. I'm going to pick the Clippers as well, but I'm going to say Clippers in 6.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Mavericks bench is going to let them down when it matters the most. I'm going Clippers in 6.
I agree. I mean, if the Mavericks had more depth, then with those top 2 guys being so good in Irving and Doncic, I believe that they could get it done. And I just feel like the Clippers, they've got better players all across the roster. They got more good players than the Mavericks do. And even though Steven Cherry, appreciate you for being here, Steven. He says Mavs will beat the Clippers. They are mentally weak. And he also says Kawhi hasn't been healthy in 20 years. What makes y'all think this year's any different? Well, I mean, that's a funny joke. To be fair, though, he did with the Raptors. They won a title. I mean, to be fair. So, I mean, you got to give him credit in that regard. But he should be able to play. He should be able to play. The most games he played this year out of like the last, I think, 5 or 6 years, he played in 68 games this year. So when you look at some of the other biggest stars in the league, some of them played even fewer games than that. So he played in 68 games out of the 82 games this season. That's not too bad. And even though he did suffer a little minor injury at the end, he should be able to play in this series. And I believe that if he's healthy, that's a great point, Austin, that you made, and I should have said that. But James Harden, people talk about playoff Harden. It's not all that good. I mean, we saw with the 76ers and even the Rockets at times where he just would disappear in certain games. Because I think in one of those years with the 76ers, there was one series where he didn't even score like 15 points in like 2 games or 3 games straight. And then he finally had like a 25 or 30-point game. But, I mean, he's just been very inconsistent in the playoffs. But it's not all going to be on Leonard. It's not all going to be on Harden. They've got enough talent. I just think they get it done. And people forget. We haven't even mentioned Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook's actually been playing pretty good too. So
yeah, he's the energy off the bench. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Russell Westbrook, he's like big energy off the bench. And you got Bones Highland, that they traded from Denver. He's a really good player as well. The Clippers, even if Kawhi's not healthy, I still think they should win this series. Paul George and James Harden should be enough to win this series. Now, going forward, we're not going to predict that far ahead, but then they might be in trouble if Kawhi's not healthy.
Absolutely.
This right here, Jeffrey, I'm so glad that this is the matchup. You've got the 3rd-seeded Minnesota Timberwolves battling the 6th-seeded Phoenix Suns. This right here is probably my favorite series out of the West bracket because you could not have 2 different teams. You've got this super team in Phoenix with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, 3 Hall of Fame guys in their own right. And then you've got the Timberwolves who are surging and on the rise. Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert. You add Naz Reid and Mike Conley in the mix. This is a series made in heaven right here. Jeffrey, what are your thoughts this series? I know you know my thoughts. I'm over here gushing over it.
Yeah, I know. It's like you just keep going, man. I mean, you got it all there. But the Phoenix Suns, I mean, they're the 6th seed, right? I mean, like they should have been a little higher. But Bradley Beal, he missed a lot of games. Even Booker missed a little bit of time. So that was kind of part of the issue. But really, they should have been higher than a 6th seed with the amount of talent they have. But, I mean, for me, though, I just feel like the Suns, they just kind of reminded me like the Clippers or some of these other teams. Even the Celtics the last few years. Maybe not this year. We don't know if this is the year for the Celtics. Like, Nope to Pope, appreciate you being here, but he says the Celtics will get it done this year. But a lot of teams that when they get to the playoffs, they just don't advance. And I know the Suns made the champion. They made the title series one time, and they couldn't get it done. They lost. But other than that, though, they've lost earlier than they should have in a lot of years. So even though they've had this super team, it hasn't really mattered. And I know that Kevin Durant, he wants to be able to win a title with Phoenix, but there's just a lot of good teams in the NBA right now. I mean, you talk about with all the added talent you bring in from Europe, all the added players that you're bringing in from other countries all around, and then you have the guys in America. Like, it's just all of this talent's in the NBA, and there's so many good teams. It's unbelievable. So even though you've got this super team with the Suns, you could argue you got a super team with the Clippers. They're nowhere near the favorites to win the whole thing. And that's just what's unbelievable about it. And then you look at the Timberwolves. I mean, Cat is healthy, it looks like. He should be able to play, and that's massive because there were reports that he might not have been able to play, but he's back now. That's big. Rudy Gobert is a defensive beast. And then Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards is the key because sometimes there have been times in the past where he does disappear in certain matchups. It can happen. But when he's on fire, when that guy is in the zone, he's one of the best guards in the league when he wants to be, when he's playing like it. So I feel like watching between Devin Booker and Anthony Edwards, who's more consistently great in this series, is going to be big. And then if Cat and Rudy Gobert can just shut down the Suns down low, if they can do that, I just think the Timberwolves are a little bit better. KD's going to be big. KD's stroking it from outside and all over the floor. I mean, he's going to put up a lot of points, but I just think that the Timberwolves all around, they're the better team in my opinion, and I think they're going to win in 6 games. I think the Suns are going down.
I was about ready to point out, though, Jeffrey, Minnesota's a little young. I mean, that could play a factor. Now, how do you see the Suns bench? Do you think they could be the deciding factor, especially if the superstars and starters are playing well? Because, Jeffrey, that's what cost them last year. They didn't really have a deep bench. This year they upgraded with Aaron Gordon. Eric Gordon, excuse me, not Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon's with us. You can't have him, Phoenix. Eric Gordon, Grayson Allen, I believe, comes off the bench, or he's a starter. They've got Yusuf Nurkic. He's a starter. Phoenix has got some good pieces that are coming off the bench and in their starting lineup, other than the 3 superstars.
That's a great point. That is a great point, and I should have brought up Eric Gordon. He played for Indiana. Why did I bring up Eric Gordon? But, yeah, Eric Gordon was a big addition. Grayson Allen, love him or hate him. I know a lot of people don't like Grayson Allen for obvious reasons in his past, but he's been a good player overall for Phoenix. I'm kind of surprised Eric Gordon doesn't play more sometimes because he's actually still a good player at his age of 34. He's like the 15th all-time player in the NBA at three-pointers, the amount of three-pointers he's made. So that's crazy. No one even talks about that because all the players ahead of him are some of the most well-known players of all time. And then you got Eric Gordon. It's just like Eric Gordon's really the 15th all-time player at threes. It's crazy. But the thing I'm worried about, though, is even though they have upgraded the bench, to your point, you're right, they don't have DeAndre Ayton anymore. And I know a lot of people did not think DeAndre Ayton was good. I mean, because of the fact that a lot of times his defense wasn't all that great and he struggled. But I feel like his offense was better than like Nurkic. Nurkic isn't bad, but he's a good player and he's probably better at defense. But I don't know. I just feel like the Timberwolves have more in the paint and they probably have a better overall team, even though the Suns have upgraded the bench. I don't know. It's going to be close. But I do believe, kind of like Stephen Cherry, he's saying it as well. Minnesota's the best player in the series in his opinion. Timberwolves 4-2 over Phoenix. That's what I got. I got the Timberwolves in 6.
So, Jeffrey, I'm going to disagree with you. I think they don't have the best player in this series. I think Devin Booker is better than Ant still right now.
I agree with that. I don't agree with Stephen's point there. I do agree with you there. I just think the Timberwolves have a better team, but you're right. I think the Phoenix Suns are the best player on the floor.
Either way you look at it, you got KD or you got Booker. I think those two are better, but Ant's right there. But Jeffrey, I'm gonna take Phoenix in this series. I'm going Phoenix in 6. I think the Suns. I think they're good to get. They're gonna get past this first round game. This first round series. I think KD, Booker, and Beal, they're just going to be a little too much scoring, and I think Minnesota is going to have some cold spells. I'm going Phoenix in 6.
It's going to be interesting. I thought you were going to go with the T-Wolves, but I mean, hey, you could be right. I mean, I could be underestimating Phoenix's upgrades because they have made upgrades. I mean, I'm just kind of looking at it that Phoenix has always been kind of like Dallas where they haven't had the bench recently these past few years, but they are a better team. It's going to be a great series. I'm really looking forward to it. Steven, he's not high on Phoenix, so he's like, KD's yet to win anything meaningful leading his own team. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth. But, I mean, it's going to be interesting. But, I mean, we're not always going to agree on every single matchup. But, I mean, it's always tough, though, because of the fact when you make the other pick, I'm like, well, could it be Phoenix? But I'm going to stick with the T-Wolves. I'm going with the Timberwolves. You got Phoenix, but I can't wait for that series. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Now, Jeffrey, it's time for the winners to play now. We got the defending NBA champions of the world. No. Let me give them a proper introduction. You've got the reigning, defending, undisputed heavyweight NBA champions of the world. Yours and my Denver Nuggets. and they are the 2 seed, and they will be taking on the 7th seeded LA Lakers in both of our predictions. Jeffrey, take it away. Can the
I mean,
Lakers
that was
avoid
like
getting
a WWE introduction, man. That was great. Oh man!
But on to
yeah.
business. On to business, Jeffrey. Can the defending champs thwart off the LeBron challenge, or at least who we have moving on? It could be the Warriors it could be the Pelicans for all we know. But
Yeah,
we
and
both have
trust
the
me, Pelicans
Lakers.
fans are gonna let us know if it is them. They're definitely gonna let us know. But I will say, man, I'm surprised the Nuggets allowed the Thunder to be the 1 seed. It's crazy that occurred because the Nuggets are so good. I know they lost a couple of the rotational players from last year. They couldn't keep them all. They just couldn't pay all of them, right? I mean, literally, if they had to pay everybody that they had on last year's team, right? Because what happened was a lot of those rotational players looked better because of Jokic's passing and even Jamal Murray as well. And then those guys end up wanting more money, which, I mean, that's fair. I mean, they just deserve to want more money because of the success that they had. But since they wanted more money, there was just no way that the Nuggets could end up paying all those guys. So they had to let a couple of them go. It is what it is. Just very tough, but that's just the way it goes in the NBA. Because one of the players that they lost was Bruce Brown. He was really good. I like Bruce Brown a lot for the Nuggets. I thought he was great off the bench, but they just couldn't keep him. They still got a lot of great players. Christian Brown, he kind of fills that bench role for sure.
KCP, not to cut you off, Jeffrey, KCP ended up taking a pay cut and staying. That was a big player that came back. We lost Jeff Green to the Rockets. That was another key piece to the title run. So there definitely was some key pieces, like you said, missing. But go ahead. Didn't mean to cut you off there.
On that. Jeff Green, I mean, I think the reason they let him go is because of his age. I mean, it's nothing against him because he was a good player, but he's just on like that very, very tail end of his career. He got the title. It just kind of wouldn't have been beneficial, I guess, for them to keep him. And then KCP, he's 31, so him taking a little bit of that pay cut, like you said, and him staying, it shows that he's committed to the team and he wants to be able to win it again. And he knows that wherever he would have ended up probably would have been a worse situation. Whereas a guy like Bruce Brown, he's younger, so that's why he wanted to get paid more. It makes sense. So I think they made the right moves. I think the Nuggets did the best with what they had. And they still got a lot of great players because if you look all over the roster, you talk about depth. This is something the Nuggets have in spades still because you've got Christian Brown, you've got KCP, you've got Aaron Gordon, you've got Michael Porter Jr., and that's to pair with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. They got a fantastic team. Reggie Jackson, didn't even mention Reggie Jackson. He is a player that has a lot of experience as well. He's 33 years old. So just tons of experience.
Peyton Watson.
I mean, you're just listing the whole team. They're all good.
They are. Michael Malone knows how to do it, Jax. I mean, Jeffrey, wrong one. He knows how. I get my J's mixed up. But Michael Malone knows how to coach the team. I mean, DeAndre Jordan's still there if that's any consolation. He got some playing time this year, but I don't think he's going to be too big of a factor in this series. But go ahead, though.
Yeah, I mean, they got so many older guys. I mean, like you mentioned, KCP 31, and then Reggie Jackson 33, DeAndre Jordan 35 years old. But to your point, I don't really think he's going to be getting all that much playing time. But still, like their roster is just so many guys are impactful. So many guys make a difference. And that's the way to roster build. You have to have stars. Anybody that says that you don't have to have stars, I don't know what they're talking about. You do have to have stars, and they got two of them. And Murray and Jokic. But then the rest of the roster is filled with a bunch of guys that are all competent players. And even though some are better than others, like Gordon and Porter Jr., the other players are still really, really solid. And that's why they have a good team. You just can't have a drop-off like the Mavericks do after their star players, or Phoenix had, especially a couple years ago. It's just good that when your fifth and sixth guy is still really solid. Then when you look at the Lakers, because like you said, that's who we have playing them, they're a good team because of LeBron and Anthony Davis, and it's not like that's it. I mean, obviously they got D'Angelo Russell. There's some other good players on the team, but there's a big drop-off after their stars. And even though there's some good depth, Rui Hachimura, to me, I just don't feel like the Lakers, even though it's LeBron, and I know that some people, whether you believe it or not, some people are like, well, you know that there's going to be some tomfoolery in these games. It's LeBron. I mean, whatever you think about that, I just feel like whatever happens, the Nuggets are going to be too much to overcome all that. The Lakers just aren't going to be able to hang with a team that's as talented and deep as the Nuggets. I believe that the Nuggets are going to beat the Lakers in a 5-game series. I'm saying LeBron's getting eliminated very quickly. 5 games.
Yes, and Jeffrey, they're playing at altitude as well. And you saw last year how that was a big effect on a lot of teams, playing at that altitude. But like you said, this is going to be an interesting series. I haven't played the Lakers as well. I think LeBron, he'll be able to play. I think he'll play great as he always does. But can Anthony Davis keep up with Jokic? As crazy as that sounds, Jokic took him to task last year. And then when you pair him with Jamal Murray, maybe the best duo in all of the NBA as we sit today. I think the Nuggets, I think they're going to repeat what they did. This may be a little biased, but I got the Nuggets sweeping the Lakers again.
Wow, I mean, that's definitely bold, but I mean, I'm with you though. I'm in your ballpark because even like Steven says, Denver might sweep them, but he's going to say 4-1 like me as well. And he also said Anthony Davis might get hurt putting his uniform on. I mean, I don't know. It might take just a little bit more for him to get hurt, but he is kind of fragile sometimes. But I mean, still, that's a hilarious joke, Steven Cherry. But yeah, I just think that the Nuggets are just so much better than the Lakers, and maybe they'll get one, but you could be right. It could be a sweep yet again. It definitely could be.
Now we're on to the east side of the bracket, and let's go to the East play-in, Jeffrey, and introduce us to our East matchups.
Yeah, we got the Miami Heat and the Philadelphia 76ers in the 7-8 matchup on Wednesday night. So one day after you have the Western playing games. And this is an interesting matchup because the 76ers, the reason that they're here is because Joel Embiid missed all that time. If he had not have gotten hurt, there is no way, no how that the 76ers would be in this playing game. They're a much better team than where they're at in the bracket. It's just unbelievable. But yeah, he got hurt. Nothing you can do there, but he's back. It looks like he's going to be able to play in this game. From what I can tell, I can look yet again real quick on injuries, but everything that I've seen on Joel Embiid, it looks to me like he's going to be able to play. That's what I'm seeing. So, it says expectations are that he will be able to play for Sixers and playing games. So that's huge for Philadelphia. And then when you look at Miami, I mean, they've had some injuries as well. Butler's he hasn't been able to play all the time recently because he's been getting older. Tyler Hero, I mean, he's up and down. When he's playing great, he's fantastic, but he sometimes goes cold. But Steven Cherry, he's saying playoff Jimmy will lead the Heat over Philly. So that's kind of close to a rhyme there as well. It's pretty good stuff, Steven. But yeah, I mean, Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, I mean, that's why they call him Jimmy Buckets. I mean, he's clutch. But I kind of feel like, though, again, with the 76ers, they shouldn't have been here. They should have been a higher seed. Kind of makes you believe they will be them, but I'm going to let you pick first.
Thank you. Put me on the hot seat now. It's my turn. I will say, Jeffrey, Miami lost a lot of key pieces from their finals team last year. Max Strus, he signed that big contract in Cleveland, which we'll get to the Cavs when we get to their side of the bracket. They also traded Kyle Lowry or released Kyle Lowry to go to Philadelphia. He was a big part of the team. You've also got Gabe Vincent, who's in LA with the Lakers. Miami lost a lot of pieces, but they still have their core pieces. Hero's healthy. Jimmy Buckets is there. Bam Adebayo. The Heat are still, I think, you never want to sleep on the Heat. But like you said, Jeffrey, if Embiid stayed healthy the full year, Philly would be a top 5 seed, and Embiid would probably be on his way to back-to-back MVPs, more than likely. But the Sixers also, they got rid of James Harden. But now Tyrese Maxey has emerged as a great number 2. You've got Kelly Oubre. You've got some pieces in Philly that's working. but will playoff Embiid show his face? Will Embiid fall apart when it matters the most? This game's in Philly. I really, really want to do it. I'm going to go Miami. I think
Ooh.
I'm going to go Heat to win 115-111. I think Miami will be the 7th seed in my bracket. I got the Heat winning on the road. Playoff Jimmy, Bam, and Hero will get the job done.
It's going to be interesting. I will say, though, with Joel Embiid, off your point, he probably was going to be back-to-back MVP if he didn't get hurt because, man, he was playing unbelievable basketball there for a while. I mean, 40-point games just back-to-back-to-back. It was crazy how well he was playing. It sucks he got hurt, but it is what it is. It's just the nature of the game. But at least for Philadelphia, they got him back when it matters the most. It just definitely hurts their seeding, and it's going to make it a lot tougher for them to advance. But something that's really interesting to me about this, though, is that Miami, if they lose this game, and win the next game, they'll be the 8th seed, and they'll have a rematch with Boston, right? I mean, I know everybody wants that because last year, I cannot believe the Miami Heat, they already did the unthinkable, right? I mean, as the 8th seed, and they knocked off the Bucks, but still, Giannis missed a couple games there, which kind of helped them a little bit. But then when they played the Celtics, though, in that series, and they won, I mean, I thought the Celtics were destined to win that series when you had Derek White going out there and tipping that shot back in game 6 or whatever. That was an unbelievable game. But then game 7 happened and they lost. It was crazy with that series. But I believe that, again, Miami, if they lose and they can win the next game, they'll be playing Boston. So I just feel like overall that sometimes you have repeat series like that. I think that the 76ers are a better team than the Heat because of the fact that if Joel Embiid had not gotten hurt, they probably would have been a way better seed. So it's going to be really interesting overall. I think that the game's going to be very close, and Miami has been clutching the playoffs recently. They definitely were last year, but I am going to go with the 76ers to knock off the Miami Heat by a score of probably 110 to around 105 because of the fact, I think it'll be a little lower scoring because of the fact Miami is a pretty good defensive team. And it seems like a lot of their games are just a little bit lower scoring in my opinion. But I do think that Philadelphia is going to be able to fight through that defense just enough. And they're going to be moving out of the play-in game and become the 7th seed. And Miami's going to fall and have to be able to win a game just to stay alive for the playoffs. It's going to be interesting. Can't wait for the game. Should be very close. But Austin, unfortunately, maybe had some internet issues. Hopefully he will be able to return. But if he's not able to return, I'm going to continue the show. I'm going to continue making picks. But hopefully he is able to come back because, I mean, I kind of want to hear what he has to do on his picks. I want to hear his selections because I know my selections, but his selections probably are going to be different than mine. But hopefully he'll be able to return. Stephen Cherry, he says Chicago over Atlanta by 10. That's going to be a good game as well. I know Atlanta's had a lot of injury issues this season. I mean, tons of injury issues, but I think that still there might be enough there where they'll have a shot to win. But that's going to be a good game because Chicago, even though Billy Donovan was rumored for the Kentucky job, he's staying, but I know that a lot of people are still disappointed with the Bulls. But we're bringing Austin back. He's back. Maybe had a little bit of internet issues, but thankfully Austin's back. I haven't really gotten too far. I just said that I'm going with the 76ers to knock off the Heat 110 to 105. I think Philly's moving on.
Jeffrey, these dang buttons on StreamYard. I went to hit the mute and I hit the technology these days. But I'm back now. We're all good. But take us into the next game. Little technical difficulty issue. Nothing we can't get over.
Sounds great, man. Glad that it was not an internet issue. Just a mistake. I've done it before as well. I've hit the wrong button and just completely left as well. And I've been the only one here. So then there was like no one here. Like people were watching nothing. So it's hilarious. But you've got Miami winning. I got Philly winning for that matchup. But Atlanta and Chicago. Stephen Cherry says he's going with the Bulls over the Hawks by 10. Atlanta's had a lot of injuries this year. That's been well documented. That's hurt their season. But luckily enough for Atlanta, all the teams behind them had terrible seasons. and Atlanta was still able to squeak in despite those injuries. But Trae Young's back. Looks like he's going to be able to play. Seems like they got a lot of their guys relatively healthy. They still got some guys out. But Chicago, they've disappointed. They were, I guess, expected to be better than what they were this season. Billy Donovan was rumored for the Kentucky job. That did not occur, but still, they're at home. Who you got in this one?
Yeah, this is interesting, Jeffrey, because like you said, Trae Young should be back and healthy. The Bulls, look at the talent that they have on their roster. DeMar DeRozan, Lonzo Ball, if he can ever get healthy, get his knee right, he's a really good player. And then you've also got Zach LaVine, Vucevic. The Bulls are a really good team. They should really not be in this position. They should be in the top 5 seed. But here they are, like you said. And Trae Young, his status is, as we speak right now, is he's going to play. But how healthy is he truly? We'll have to see as soon as he starts playing if it's going to bother him or not. But DeJounte Murray has been holding it down. Bogdan Bogdanovic has been a big one, bogey, for the Hawks. Quint Capella, I believe his status as of today, I believe he is expected to play. Is that right, Jeffrey? He's as of now. I think even with all that, I think Trae Young and the Hawks, I think Trae Young's going to be limping into this game. I'm going to take Chicago. I think the Bulls, they're a little more healthier. And I think that the Zach LaVine, DeMar, I think should be enough to get this done. I got the Bulls advancing. I got the Bulls winning 97-94. A little bit of a low-scoring game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game as well. And definitely how healthy Trae Young is going to play a big role on whether my pick is going to be correct or not. Because of the fact that I think if he is healthy enough, can the Hawks go any further than this? I don't know. We're not making our pick for the next game just yet. We got to get done with this one first. So we'll determine that because I already have my pick for it. But I think with just one game, I feel like the Hawks can get by the Bulls. I don't know why. I'm feeling Trae Young. He's gonna ball out. He's gonna try to prove everybody I still got this. Despite the injury, DeJounte Murray's gonna have a big one. Clint Capella is gonna hold the fort down low. And the Bulls, they've disappointed. They got so much talent, but they just haven't been able to figure it out all the way. I think that the Hawks are actually gonna go on the road and knock off Chicago. I'm going to go 108-102. I think they're going to get it done. I could be completely wrong depending on the health and how healthy those guys are when they're playing, but I think the Hawks are going to get it done.
Jeffrey, are you feeling a little ice? Trae?
That's hilarious, man.
So, in your brackets, you've got the Hawks and Heat. In my bracket, I've got Philly and Chicago. We completely went the opposite way on this one. I got Miami in the 7. You've got Philly in the 7. This is what's compelling about this. You could have various different answers. But, Jeffrey, I'll let you start. Is Atlanta going to beat Miami and get to play the Celtics 2 years in a row? Or is playoff Jimmy going to stop it right there?
It's gonna be very intriguing, but again, with the Hawks having all those injuries, which I know it sounds completely idiotic that I'm reversing roles here because I'm like, well, Atlanta, they might be good to go and knock off Chicago, but I think that for whatever reason, they might just be able to get by Chicago, but then they're gonna have issues against Miami with that defense. Maybe the injuries kind of bubble up a little bit more, and I'm telling you, I just feel like Miami is destined to play the Boston Celtics again for the second year in a row in the playoffs. Give me Jimmy buckets. The Miami Heat are going to be the 8th seed. They're going to knock off the Atlanta Hawks by a score of 104-100. I just think that Trae Young, he's going to have enough in the tank to knock off the Bulls, but it's not going to be enough to knock off the Heat.
So in my series, I've got Chicago going to Philly. And this series here is – the Bulls, I think, have the better trio of players. But Joel Embiid, how healthy is he, is obviously going to be key throughout this entire playoff run if they want to go deep. But I think Tyrese Maxey, he's special. I think he's going to earn himself a big max contract when it's time for that. I think Philadelphia is going to be the 8th seed. I got the Sixers winning 121-115. I got the Sixers winning. Even if Embiid's limping into the second game or misses it, I still think the Bulls, that they've been a little too dysfunctional for me to pick them to go to the playoffs. I'm going Sixers, though. I'm going Sixers as my 8th seed.
We didn't really vary all that much, though, because even though we swapped on the results, we still both have the Heat and the 76ers making the playoffs. So we're not going with surprise upset, either the Bulls or the Hawks making the playoffs. We got the results backwards, but we got the two teams that we think that are going to make the playoffs making it. So we didn't really differ all that much when you really think about it, just on how it happened.
Yeah. I've got the Sixers fans sweating it out, and you've got the Heat fans sweating it out. It's all good. They're going to forgive us.
Absolutely. We got Alfie here. Appreciate you. Shout out from the Philippines. Appreciate that for stopping by. And he also says, let's go Lakers. The king, LeBron James, is real. Yes, LeBron James is real. He is definitely real. He's also for real for a lot of people, for sure. But a lot of people are fans of LeBron for various reasons. But again, cannot deny that he is a fantastic player. But do appreciate you for stopping by, Alfie. And then Steven Cherry, he says Chicago over Miami by 3. So he thinks Chicago's going to get an upset there. Crazy.
Upset. But Jeffrey, now it's time to predict the East. Oh, this is the more intriguing bracket. Is there's so many upsets that could happen. But introduce us to your first game.
Yeah, I've got it being a rematch, destined to happen, Celtics and Heat in the 1-versus-8 matchup. And the thing is that I'm telling you, I still cannot believe that Miami did that last year. Winning all those games to the 8th seed, I mean, beating the Celtics like that, when to me, I'm like, it's either going to be the Celtics or it's the Nuggets. Like all year, I'm like, it's going to be the Celtics or it's going to be the Nuggets. And the Celtics lost to the 8th seed. Just unbelievable. What a series that was. But Boston, the team is loaded. They brought in Kristaps Porzingis. And overall, people were worried about the health. But overall, he's been playing for the most part for Boston. He's healthy now, but he's been in and out a little bit. But he was a good addition as long as he's healthy, because he just brings so much to the offense, being able to step out and shoot threes. He's so long, he's tall that he can bang down low with basically anybody. But that was a good addition. Tatum and Brown still playing great basketball. Obviously, Tatum's not getting as much, I guess, recognition, because I think maybe scoring might have stepped back just a little bit. But it's because they got so much talent that he doesn't have to score as much. But then you got Al Horford, the veteran Al Horford. I mean, that guy, when he first entered the league, couldn't shoot threes at all. When he came back up out of college basketball, those 2 back-to-back championships at Florida, he was not a three-point threat. But as time went on and he got older, he knew that he was going to have to be able to shoot threes if he was going to stick in the league as long as he has. And he has. He's definitely a deadly shooter. And then you look at a guy like Derek White. I mean, he's a very good player, just an underrated player. Their entire roster is just loaded with great talent.
Drew Holiday.
Drew Holiday as well. Bringing him in was big as well. A lot of people did not agree with the Celtics getting rid of Marcus Smart. That was tough. I mean, Marcus Smart with the green hair, I mean, he was the full embodiment of the Celtics. Like, he'd been there for longer than anybody else had been there on that roster. That was tough to let him go. But he's had some injuries. And Robert Williams, he was such a talented player, but he couldn't stay healthy. So it did make sense for Boston to let those guys go. But like you said, Drew Holiday, good defender, has kind of taken over that role of Marcus Smart. But I don't know. I'm kind of with Steven here, though. If Tatum and Brown can't get it done this year, they're never going to win a chip. Because, I mean, it's going to be tough to keep them there forever. And there's so many good teams in the NBA. I mean, you got the Thunder on the rise. I mean, all these teams are coming up, right? And the Celtics, they're still young with Tatum and Brown, but they do need to win it this year. They do. This is their year, you would think. And I think it's going to be tough. If Miami could do it 2 years in a row, if they could do it 2 years
Oh
in a
my
row,
gosh.
the unthinkable, my brain would just explode. I'm like, really? The Celtics
Jeffrey,
did it again?
Celtics fans are going to be having heart attacks thinking we had the best record in the NBA and we couldn't beat Miami. That's the team that's going to stop us in round one nonetheless.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, at least the Bucks had an excuse with Giannis missing a couple games. The Celtics, they just do not have an excuse. So I am going to go with the Celtics to get revenge on Miami, knock them out of the playoffs. No more playoff Jimmy, no more Jimmy buckets. They're not going to have the magic this year. I believe the Celtics are going to beat the Heat in 5 games. I think that the Celtics are going to be determined to prove that last year is not going to happen again. Maybe I'm wrong and the Heat win more games, but I think the Celtics are going to beat them in 5 games.
Yeah, and in my side of the bracket, I've got the Celtics battling Philly. I think it'll be
to be
really
honest,
fun.
I think that it would be better for the Celtics to play Miami, despite the fact Miami ended up beating them last year. The Celtics don't want to play Philly. With Embiid back, you don't want to play Philly in the first round matchup, in my opinion.
I agree. I think Jeffrey, that's why I think the Sixers Embiid is going to give them some trouble. Because in my bracket, I have the 76ers going to play the Celtics in round one. I think it'll be a really fun series. I think Maxey can definitely, he's going to be a handful. They're going to be putting Holiday and White on him. That's going to take away some of that on defense. Embiid might have his way down low with Porzingis. I think this is a matchup nightmare for the Celtics, in my opinion, especially if the supporting cast along with Maxey can get it going. Tobias Harris, it's going to be huge. I think, in my opinion, I think the Celtics still have enough talent to win this series, but I think Celtics in 6. I think Embiid takes 2 games off of them, and the Celtics get more of a test than they're looking for. I got the Celtics in 6.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you talk about the Celtics' possible quest to win the entire thing this year, you don't want your first round matchup being all that difficult. You don't want it being a strain on you that you got to give it 110% just to get out of the first round. And maybe Miami gives them a tough test as well. Maybe it's tough for them to just get by them again. But you don't want Boston playing Philly. If you want Boston to win the entire thing, you just don't want them to play Philly in the first round. But I do agree with you, though. In your scenario, I think Boston will beat Philly as well, but it's going to be harder for them to do so. But regardless, both of us have Boston advancing out of the first round, but to different teams. Alfie says, first time I hear of your channel, sir. Thank you. I'm a fan of the NBA since when I was a kid. I started to watch them since 2004 here in the Philippines. Love more fans in NBA basketball. I mean, definitely the NBA has appeal all over the world. I mean, people watch it all over the place, so it's awesome. I do appreciate you, though, for stopping by. Definitely. You said I subscribe to your channel, sir. Love your topic of NBA basketball. Thank you, definitely. I mean, I don't even cover the NBA as much, but I mean, we'll definitely be covering it now with the playoffs coming up. I'll have some live streams. Austin, I'm sure you're going to have some content as well, but both of us. But I do appreciate you for being here. But it's going to be a lot of fun talking about these playoffs for the next few weeks and months as well, watching these games. I cannot wait for it. But the next matchup, we got, like you said, Austin, your words, the 8-9 matchup equivalent in March Madness to the NBA. You got the 4-5 matchup. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they're the 4 seed. I mean, they had a good season against the Orlando Magic, another team that kind of surprised, kind of snuck up on everybody. I was not like the Magic. I mean, they haven't been good years, but they're the 5 seed. This is an intriguing matchup.
Yeah, and Jeffrey, the Magic are like the Thunder. They did it through the draft. Paulo Banchero, Jalen Suggs, Cole Anthony. I mean, they built their roster up. Jonathan Isaac. The Magic are like the Thunder in a lot of ways. They built up their draft stock, drafted well. They're young. They're hungry. They're playing with poise. They're playing with confidence. And Cleveland's kind of limping into this. Donovan Mitchell, he's not as healthy as he should be going into this series. I believe he's going to play game 1 as we sit tonight. I believe he's going to play because he's been dealing with lingering knee issues. And that's a big key, Jeffrey, because if Donovan Mitchell misses any amount of these games, the Magic could turn the series in their favor. Now, they won't have home court advantage, which for a young team, that could mean a lot. How do the Magic handle that road playoff environment? It's one thing to do it in the regular season, but this is the playoffs. This is where the big boys play now. Let's see if this young, hungry team can play. But also, the Cavs made a lot of great additions. Max Strus, like I mentioned him, he signed a big contract deal because from Miami, Darius Garland, Jared Allen. The Cavs have got some talents. And I would hate to see it. And they even traded for Donovan Mitchell. The Cavs are all in on trying to get themselves back to title relevancy. This is going to be a fun series. But what are your thoughts on it, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at like you're talking about with the Magic, having that youth, versus kind of more the experienced team with the Cavaliers. Now, Cavaliers have some young talent as well, like Darius Garland, now bringing in Max Strus. Max Strus was a good addition. I like that addition for them. I mean, he wanted to get paid more. Heat couldn't really do it. Makes a lot of sense for him to go there. But they got a good team. But like you said, Donovan Mitchell, I'm looking at the injury report. I mean, it looks like he's going to play, should be able to play, but will he be anywhere close to 100%? Probably not. And like the Magic, all those young players. I mean, Cole Anthony, I didn't know he was going to really be all that good of a player in the NBA. I thought he was going to have some success, but like when he was at Carolina, I mean, the team was bad. They were really bad that season, but he's done really well at the Orlando Magic. And Paulo Banchero, I mean, he was great at Duke, doing a great job in the pros. I mean, they just got a good team. Jalen Suggs, I mean, that shot he did at Gonzaga, man, in the NCAA tournament, that was unbelievable. And the Final Four against UCLA, but they couldn't get it done in the championship game, though. But still, Gonzaga was a great team. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to go with the youth, man. I'm going to go with the Magic to beat the Cavaliers in 7 games. I think it's going to go all the way to the end, to Game 7, but I'm going with the Magic. I believe in their magic.
That's a bold pick, Jeffrey, but you know what? Save me a spot. I'm on the Magic train with you. I'm going Magic in 7 as well. I think this goes the distance, but I think the Magic, I think their youth wins at the end, and I think the Cavs are limping their way in, and I got Magic at 7. I think the Cavs, Donovan Mitchell not being as healthy as he should be, Garland's going to have to pick up the slack, and I just don't think it's going to be enough. I got the Magic winning this in 7.
Yeah, I'm riding that Magic school bus, man. I mean, I don't know. If Donovan Mitchell was 100%, I would probably go with them, but I mean, that's why I got to go into 7 games. I think it's going to be wire to wire, but sometimes you just got to pick, the underdog a little bit here. And I believe the Magic, they're riding high, playing great basketball, best team they've had in so long. And Stephen Cherry's not a fan of Bickerstaff. He says he's going to fail the Cavs again. He thinks the Magic's going to win in 6. So he's high on them. Yeah.
Stephen Cherry has them one less game than we do. I mean, that could be it, but it's just hard. I think they're a young team. I think their experience will show in 1 or 2 of these games, and they'll make some mental mistakes. That's why I'm thinking 7.
Absolutely. Me too as well. Alfie says English is not good. Sorry, but I subscribe to your channel right now. I appreciate that, Alfie. Really, really do. Glad that you're here, and definitely no problem on that at all. Definitely, though. He says you are amazing. I mean, me and Austin, I mean, we love talking, about basketball. I mean, March Madness, even the NBA playoffs. I mean, it's just like kid on Christmas. We love this stuff. It's always so much fun to talk about. I love football as well, but a lot of people that love football don't like basketball, but I like both. Austin does as well, and I'm just glad that you're definitely here, but we just have a lot of fun talking about it. It's always a blast. And then Jackson, he's saying, now the Magic School Bus theme song is stuck in my head. It's in my head too, man, Jackson. It's one of those theme songs that's in your head rent-free. I mean, come on. It's one of the greatest cartoon theme songs ever.
Ride on the Magic School Bus.
Man, I watched that show so much when I was a kid. My goodness. But off to the next matchup in the NBA playoffs. We got the Milwaukee Bucks and the Indiana Pacers, another team that is rising up. The Pacers, they've been mediocre for so long. They got a new coach. Was the coach there in the past, Rick Carlisle, and look what they're building. All these players, they got some really talented players. Benedict Mathurin, he's out. Benedict Mathurin is out for the season. That's the only guy that they don't have. But other than him, the rest of the players, I mean, just they have done such a good job building the roster. They brought in Bruce Brown from the Nuggets. I like this team a lot. But the Bucks, Giannis might not be able to play in the first game, like you said, doubtful for game one, but should be back after that. You've got Chris Middleton. You've got some other talented players. Damian Lillard, obviously. That's huge. But this is going to be an interesting matchup for sure. I don't think it's a shoe-in for the Bucks. The Pacers are tough.
They're a really good team. Let me ask you this, Jeffrey. Who's got more pressure on them right now, the Bucks or the Celtics? Because they both brought in key acquisitions, and if they fall short this year, who do you think is going to get the brunt of the pressure put on them? Who's in the pressure cooker right now?
Well, I mean, I know this sounds kind of crazy, but I would say as a team, the Celtics have more pressure because of the fact they need to win it right now. With all these teams like the Pacers and the Magic and the Thunder that are rising up, you gotta win it right now while you probably have the best team in the league. I mean, Al Horford's not going to be there a lot longer. I mean, it's just the way this team is built right now. They got to get it done. But I would argue with the Bucks, it's more pressure on Doc Rivers because even though, yes, the Bucks have a lot of pressure to win, a title again, they won a title more recently than the Celtics have by far. Plus, Damian Lillard, I know he wants to win a title, but I mean, I just don't really think anybody, no one's saying the Bucks are the favorite to win it all. Whereas most people are going to say it's probably the Celtics, maybe it's the Nuggets again, a couple other teams. Bucks are a little bit lower on that list, but they still have a really good chance to. But I would say that the Celtics have more pressure to win the entire thing, but Doc Rivers just has more pressure as a coach because of the fact it's been well documented that his teams that he's coached have always fallen short in the playoffs outside of the 08 Celtics.
Jeffrey, I will say, when you make a trade for a superstar like Damian Lillard, you're telling your superstar, Giannis, that we want you here and we want to win with you. Mm-hmm. And if you lose to the Pacers in round one, oh boy, Giannis and company are not going to be happy. But since you've been going first most of the time, I'll make my pick first on this one after I get done with this explanation. I'll take the pressure off you for this one because this may shock you. But the Pacers, Tyrese Halliburton, he was a steal in the draft for the Sacramento Kings. I mean, how did he get passed up? I mean, he's a really good player. How did no one not see this coming? I forget what college he played at now. Dadgummit.
Iowa State?
Yeah, Iowa State, yeah. So, I have a lot of things in this cluttered brain. Iowa State. I don't know why.
Don't blame you. I had to think about it for a second as well.
Iowa State. But yeah, he was a steal in the draft. And then the Pacers traded for him, and I was like, oh, this is going to work out for the Kings and the Pacers, in my opinion. And it's worked out, I think, better for the Pacers in the long run because now they got their superstar of the future to help out with Miles Turner. They've also got added, obviously Benedict Mathurin out of Arizona. As you said, he was out for the season, though. That's a huge loss. He was a defensive specialist. Obi Toppin, he's been a great addition to this young team. After the Knicks drafted him, he found out he wasn't good of a fit. He comes to Indiana, and he has a resurgence. Aaron Nesmith. I mean, the Pacers are young. They're talented. They play fast. But, Jeffrey, the thing that worries me about them is they have no defense. Have you watched any Pacer games? They don't have no defense. And that's what worries me. Now, I will say, like you said, Giannis is doubtful for game one. So they might have a chance to slow the Bucks down a hair. But if Giannis comes back in, say, game 2 or 3, or comes back no later than game 4, it's on like Donkey Kong. The Bucks are going to be running and gunning with them, and I think they ain't going to have an answer. Miles Turner will be able to spread the floor out, but the Bucks also have Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis. I think they're just too talented, too deep. I'm going with the Bucks in this. I'm going Bucks in 7. I think this is another one that goes the distance, especially if Giannis misses a couple. I'm going Bucks in 7.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is kind of like it feels like the Clippers and the Bucks are kind of similar just in the fact that they have a lot of guys that are really good. I think that the Clippers, maybe they got more stars but than the Bucks because it's just kind of Dame and Giannis. But then you've got Chris Middleton. You've got Bobby Portis. You've got Brook Lopez. I mean, Brook Lopez, it's unbelievable how well he's still playing, right? Because like his brother, Robin Lopez, like he didn't improve. Like he didn't get better at the things that you needed to get better at as an aging big, right? Like in the modern NBA.
I forgot to mention him.
Oh, Pat Connaughton, he's good. But like Robin Lopez, he didn't improve at the things you needed to get better at as a modern day big, and especially when you're getting older and you're not as like athletic. That's why you got a guy like Blake Griffin as well that's not really impactful anymore because he just can't really do the things that you need to do as an older big like Al Horford does. And Brook Lopez adjusted, being able to shoot the long ball, and he's a good rebounder, just a solid player for his age. But that's going to be the key, though. Giannis has to be healthy. He has to be able to go out there and play basically at least 90%, maybe 85% at the lowest point for him for the Bucks to be okay. Because if he's not, like, if he's 50-50 and like he's really struggling out there, it could be bad because the Pacers, they can light it up. Now, the Bucks defense, there's been a source of controversy all year. Remember, they were like brought in Doc Rivers, got to improve that defense, but it's like their defense has been up and down. But the Pacers, they just put the pressure on you because they score so much. But like you said, the thing that could end up being the weakness for Indiana is that, man, that defense just can't stop anybody. I mean, their offense scores so much, and maybe that can be enough. But I don't know. And then you got, like Jackson says, he hopes Damian Lillard gets that NBA title. He's basically the Matthew Stafford of the NBA. I mean, Damian Lillard, if he can win a title in Milwaukee after all those years of being at Portland, then he would be exactly like Matthew Stafford, being in Detroit the entire time, going out to LA and getting that title. So we'll have to see. Stephen Cherry says Dame Lillard doesn't seem happy in Milwaukee. I can't really say. I haven't watched him enough to really know and follow that closely enough. But that could be the case, Stephen. You're probably right on that. And he also says Doc Rivers is overrated, which I don't really know how overrated he is because a lot of people talk down about him. A lot of people really do not talk highly of Doc Rivers. So, I mean, it seems like he's properly rated, but maybe for some people that think he's elite, I don't know. But he says, I got the Bucks over the Pacers 4-3. I mean, I'm tempted. Just like with the Magic, with that youth, I am tempted to pick Indiana because of the fact of all that offensive weaponry. I mean, it's a fun team to watch. That's what I wish the Indiana Hoosiers were like in college basketball again, like the Tom Green years. I mean, come on, Indiana, have some offense. The Pacers have it, but man, I will say that I just think that the Bucks, they're going to be a little too much. If Giannis is close to 100%, which I think he will be more than likely, their defense is going to be just enough to slow them down. I got the Bucks over the Pacers in 6. I think that the Pacers, their defense is just not good enough to even take it to 7 games. I think they could go to 7 games, like you said, and Steven as well, but I got the Bucks winning in 6.
6. Yeah, that's interesting. And now on to our final matchup in the East bracket. We've made it. The second-seeded New York Knicks team. Who could have ever seen this coming? The Knicks are second, Jeffrey. Did we go back in a time portal? Is Carmelo Anthony playing for the Knicks again? And someone forgot to mention that. I mean, but the breaking news that's coming out of this, though, Julius Randle is out for the season. That's a major loss in New York. But Jalen Brunson, David Chenzo, and not RJ Barrett. I'm trying to think of the other Villanova guy. Who's the other one?
I know they brought in OG Anunoby. That was a big addition over from the Raptors.
Yes.
Gotta mention the Indiana guys, man.
Yes, OG Anunoby. He's another great addition to the team. I think he's really upped their defense, and he adds another 15, 20 points to this team. But in my bracket, I have it being the Heat and the Knicks. Jeffrey has it being the 76ers and the Knicks. And I'll start off by saying this. I think the Heat Knicks, who met in the semifinals last year, it was a really good series, and the Heat ended up winning that series in 6. I think this is going to be another series where the Knicks have got all this confidence, all this momentum. They've won 50 games, but something tells me, Jeffrey, this could be another one of those Miami Heat vengeance specials. I smell Miami dark horse again. Smell Heat dark horse again. You smell that? That's the Heat playing spoiler again.
Oh,
I'm
man.
going in my bracket. I'm going with the Heat over the Knicks in 6 again. I think
You have not
the Heat
made Stephen A. Smith happy. You have not made him happy at all, or Spike Lee for that matter.
Well, Jeffrey, they ain't never going to see this, and this is my
I
pick
know.
anyway.
I know,
But
but you know,
I'm going-
they don't like when the Knicks lose. That's all I know.
But I've got a Heat special over the Knicks. Heat in 6. The Knicks have had a great year, but this is where it comes to an end in my book. But Jeffrey, is Philly going to play spoiler in your bracket, or do you have the Knicks advancing?
I mean, I feel really bad for the Knicks, man, that they got the 76ers as the 7th seed. I mean, that is just so bad. I mean, they're such a good team. It's like, oh my goodness, they should be like a 4 seed. But I mean, if the Knicks, if they didn't have the 76ers, then if they were ahead of the Pacers, they'd have to play the Pacers. So that wouldn't be easy either. But I'm seeing a lot of controversy in New York, though. A lot of articles being written about, are the Knicks better without Julius Randle? Because, I mean, look at them. I'm not saying that's the case, but that's what I'm seeing around a lot of NBA circles right now, is that they might be a better team without him, which is unbelievable. Never would have thought that. But, hey, I mean, they're still playing great. I thought the Knicks were going to take a nosedive after it was announced he was out for the season, but they were still winning games, still got the 2 seed. So, I don't know. OG Anunoby, like you said, he is made the defense so much better for the Knicks. Like every time you turn on a Knicks game, it seems like they're in the 90s. Like the score's like 99, 95. Like it's never in the hundreds. Like they always are doing great on the defensive end. Brunson's a great player. I mean, I know people thought he was going to be a good pro after Villanova, but I don't really think anybody was thinking he was going to be this good. He has been really, really good for the Knicks.
He's earned his money.
I mean, the Mavericks shouldn't have let him go. The Mavericks should not have let him go. That was insane. I mean, why did you let him go? I can't believe it. But I will say that I am a bit worried for the Knicks. Definitely the money. I get it. But you got to keep him, man. You got to keep him. But I will say that the Knicks, I'm worried with Randle out. Despite the rumors, people are saying, is this team better based off evidence? I mean, it could go either way. But I think I'm still worried about that. Embiid's going to play great, in my opinion. Even though he's been out hurt, I think he's going to show up. He's going to be a problem. Maxi's going to be a problem. I still think for the 76ers, I mean, overall, looking at, their roster, like they have just enough. I mean, they don't have like a lot of players that are great because it feels like there is a drop-off, but they just have enough solid players that's why that even with Embiid out, they still were pretty good. They were a good team. But with him back, it brings them over the top. I think this series is going to go to the end. I think because you have Randle out for the Knicks, that makes their team possibly just a little bit compromised. And with Embiid coming back off the injury, we don't know how well he's going to play. But I think it's going to go to 7 games. But I'm going to go with the Knicks. I think the Knicks are going to find a way to beat the 76ers in 7 games. I could be wrong. I'm shocked I'm making this pick because I think the 76ers are going to make it tough. But those Knicks are playing well. I like the way they're playing. I think New York's moving on. I think they're going to do it in 7 games.
You know what, Jeffrey? You know what? Now that I've thought about it, you know what, Jeffrey? I'm going to switch my pick. I'm going to go Knicks at 6 over the Heat.
Oh, my goodness. I thought we were smelling the Miami Heat. Dark horse. What happened?
You talked me into it, Jeffrey. You talked me back into the room. Maybe I was a little hasty. Maybe I need to give Jalen Brunson and company their respect. Sorry, Miami Heat, but I'm going Knicks in 6. Jeffrey, you talked me back into it.
You almost got me to switch my pick in the Timberwolves Suns.
We almost made each other flip.
I was close.
Like
I almost did, but then I ended up making you flip.
Now, before we head on out of here, couple questions, Jeffrey. what's your favorite series and what's your least favorite series for going into this year, and then we can let people know where they can find us.
That's a great question. I mean, it's probably a dumb answer, but I can't wait for Celtics Heat. I want to see Celtics Heat. I don't know why, but I just want to see if Boston's going to blow it again against Miami. I want to see that so bad, man. Like, if Miami, can they do it? Do they have that magic in them? But, I mean, there's probably better series like the Clippers. Mavericks could be really good. The Bucks, Pacers, Timberwolves, Suns. But the one I'm looking forward to is to see if just Boston can get it done, get by Miami, who's been a thorn in their side recently. Least favorite one, that's tough because all these are possibly going to be really good. I mean, it could be the Nuggets and the Lakers. That could be the worst one if the Nuggets just run them out of town. That could be the case. I mean, it could be that one.
My favorite is the T-Wolves Suns series. That's my favorite out of this bracket, out of both brackets. I'm really looking forward to that. My least favorite, probably the Thunder against the Kings in my bracket. I just feel like that has the makings of like that just doesn't scream playoffs to me as much.
Yeah,
I'll be watching, of course. It's not screaming like playoffs. It's screaming like whoever wins this game, guess what? Your reward's going to be the Clippers or the Mavericks. Good luck.
Yeah, that's going to be tough for sure. I will say, I'll ask you one question since you asked me a couple questions. I know we're not picking who we think's going to win it all, but out of all these teams, who do you think, in your opinion, are the three likeliest teams to possibly win it all?
My three favorites, as we sit tonight, I've got the Celtics, of course, my Nuggets, and you know what? I'm gonna say Phoenix.
Ooh, that is a spicy one for sure. But man, I could maybe see it. I'll go with Boston as well, and I will go with Denver. And for my third one, I mean, the Thunder, I mean, they're so young. I to me, I don't know if they're going to get all the way. That's going to be tough. And then the Bucks, the Bucks are probably top 4 for me. I don't know if they're the third. I'm trying to look. T-Wolves, I got some problems. Suns, I don't see it either. Boston and Denver, obvious. I would probably say as of now, my mind could change. I guess the Bucks. I think the Bucks could maybe do it. Maybe, but they're not my favorite at all. I would say Boston or Denver are my two favorites. But some of the other teams have a chance. It's going to be interesting. I like this playoff field. I think it's a good playoff. I think there's a lot of good teams. I like the fact that we got some newcomers. I'm excited about the Magic and the Pacers. I like, and even take a team like the Mavericks that are kind of been a surprise, a little bit better of a team than some people were thinking as well. So I like some of these teams that are in here. And the Thunder, can't forget about them being the 1 seed. That's awesome. I can't wait for the playoffs. I'm not as excited about as March Madness. Nothing beats March Madness, but it's still going to be a lot of fun, and I cannot wait to see what happens. And hopefully whoever wins, whether it's your Nuggets, Austin, maybe the Celtics can get it done. I mean, I don't really have a favorite NBA team, but I've always kind of had a soft spot for the Celtics, just because of the fact one of the first teams I ever watched was the Ray Allen team, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce. I was like 5 years old watching those teams, and they were so fun to watch. But, I mean, they're like, I mean, it's not like, oh, man, Boston's my favorite team by far or anything like that, but I've always kind of liked them. I know them and the Lakers are the two teams people talk about the most, but the Charlotte Hornets, I mean, they're the team closest to me, but they're horrible. I mean, are they ever going to be good? They make all the wrong moves. We're talking about all these other teams that draft well, with the Hornets make all the wrong moves. But definitely it's going to be exciting to see what happens. You have any final thoughts, Austin? And definitely talk about where people can find you.
You know, I'm looking forward to this. I'm excited, you know, a chance to go back to back. Not many teams could say that they've done that. And, you know, I really hope in my heart of hearts, whoever we get, whoever we draw, whether it's the Pelicans or Lakers, I just hope that we can make it a good series and show people, that we're still a threat to be reckoned with. You don't, as Jackson says, you don't throw the cart in before the horse, or as our parents used to say, never throw the cart in before the horse, or the old saying that my grandma always used to tell me: be careful. Don't hatch your eggs for the chickens hatch, or no, don't. It's something like that.
Yeah, don't count your chickens before they hatch. I think my favorite one that Jackson does is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's my favorite one. I mean, nothing beats that one.
Yeah,
So good.
but this is gonna be a fun. I think this is the most parity we've had in the NBA playoffs in a really long time. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, go Nuggets. Hopefully, we can win it again. And if we do, well, me and Jeffrey, we never know. We might throw a party on stream next time to celebrate the Nuggets. No, but in all seriousness,
it would be crazy if they won it again. I mean, we just had back-to-back champions in college basketball with UConn. Maybe Denver can do it as well.
But this was fun, Jeffrey. Thank you for having me on. I'm looking forward to these upcoming series in the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad that you suggested doing it. I mean, like I said, don't do a ton of NBA streams or content, but I will do some live streams for the playoffs games. It's going to be fun, but definitely it was a great idea. It was a blast. Traveling Fools made it at the end. He said, yo, appreciate you for being here. Steven said, great show, fellas. Had to go to bed. He says Boston over Denver in the finals is what he has. The Leprechaun will be dancing again in Boston, so that's going to be interesting. That's his pick. I do appreciate him for being here tonight. Alfie's last comment, he said Lillard's not a good passer, but a good shooter. Absolutely, but appreciate him for being here tonight. And Jackson as well. And Jackson also pointed out our shows as well, talking about where you can find me. You can find Austin over on his YouTube channel and over on his Twitter account, Sports Talk with Austin. So go check him out over there and give him a sub. And then also Jackson pointing out that you can find me over obviously on YouTube, and you can find me at Twitter and Rumble as well. I have a Rumble account where I post my lives and videos over there. But definitely, if you like our content, if you had fun watching the stream, appreciate you for being here, whether over on Sports Talk with Austin or Only Talk Sports. But sub if you like the content, would really appreciate it, definitely. But appreciate you guys for being here. You guys made it a great stream, and it's going to be a great NBA playoffs, I'm sure. And what's going to be really interesting to see if the Celtics can finally get it done, or if the Nuggets repeat, or some other team ends up winning it all. But thanks for being here, everybody. It's going to be a lot of fun to see what ends up happening.